I basically just wanted to pass these things out. I want to collect them back when we're done because they're not public information yet. I can do that, right, or do I need to wait until the executive session to do it because it's embargoed information?
You can't pass it out in open session without keeping it
It's embargoed, so we can't do it in
on. It can't
open
be a
session.
general discussion.
All right, so I won't discuss this because I can't until we're behind closed doors because it's embargoed information, but it was information you had asked for about Regents results, and I wanted to just share that with the board.
Okay.
Okay, but I wanted to.
And why it's embargoed, we have no idea. It's just the state, when they put out reports, sometimes preliminary embargo them for certain
Tell us
dates.
what-
Is that the same thing as classified or something? Or-
Somewhat, yes. But it doesn't make sense because you could go to every, school and look it up. So I'm not really sure, but it is what it said, it's embargoed.
Well, they'll send you information and give you a date that you can release it.
Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to just mention was that we did get Homework Club up and going for, we have, I believe 12 kids right now in the fifth, sixth grade portion of it. And we have right now 8 kids at the 7, 8, 9 level. 12 is pretty much the max for the elementary level because there's only one teacher assigned to that group. And I do have one boy that took a form today that asked if he could be in it, so we'll see if he brings it back tomorrow. So I don't know if we really want to have more than 8 or 9 in the high school, but or the 7, 8, 9, to tell you the truth, to be effective, then it comes into it, becomes like more of a social hour.
But
But-
12 is really too much. Both the advisors spoke to me, I haven't seen you to tell you.
So we've got to do, Amy's got to do something, that's
Yeah.
Amy's portion.
No, but it's too many, because they can't possibly get to everyone.
But there's definitely the need, and to have the commitment from the parents is speaking volumes right now.
Is that the normal range that we normally have? For that,
For homework club?
yeah,
Well, what it's being listed as is tutorial, it's not, it's supposed to actually be working with them, not just overseeing a homework study hall.
right.
So we've never done this before, this is the first
Okay,
year.
are we still doing the other one?
Yes,
Oh,
extended
day,
days.
so
Extended
that was
day
great.
program.
Okay,
These
good.
have failed in
Okay,
the first 10
all
weeks,
right.
something within the first 10
And
weeks.
good.
I don't know, I think there's 1 or 2 maybe that pulled from the after school on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I don't think they pulled out of the program completely. That I think they go on Wednesdays to that, and that was the parents that made that decision. They wanted real academic focus twice a week for their kids.
Is there any way we set for the, say, the National Honor Society to have a student go in there and work?
They already actually are doing tutoring, the NHS, not maybe after school, but most likely those kids are playing sports,
Okay.
which, but we can check on those other absences, because we're going to have to after I got spoken to on Friday. It's an active age level to have 12.
I turned that half over
Right.
to Amy, and I've taken mine.
Right. That's why I don't know that you should go much higher than that in yours either, it just becomes not effective.
Well, and to me, there was one in particular that was a problem that will remove them, if it's going to be detrimental
Right.
to the kids that are really there for the right purpose. So that's really all I have. I mean, I met with Amy and I have been working with the teachers who are using the STAR reading, and we're reading a book called When the Kids Can't Read, What the Teacher Can Do. We did half the book and had a little book study today and review on teaching strategies for reading comprehension. And our goal, I believe my goal, is to spread this so that, we've got a nucleus group we're starting with this year, but we're going to be trying to move that to pretty much all teachers, 7 to 12. It doesn't really matter what your content area is. And Friday I went to a workshop in Rochester that was free to go to, put on by the Common Core Institute, and got some really great information to bring back on implementing the Common Core, and just they got a full package in this pamphlet about Lexile scores, that's reading levels that where we currently function at, where the Common Core wants to get us to. It took like the Bloom's taxonomy and other, what do they call those? Like the Bloom's taxonomy, there's
Like the
about
education
5 or 6 of them.
Priorities and methodologies.
Yeah, so they compared like about 5 of them and put them on common speaking terms or levels. They had the 8th grade K to 12 math shifts and show what grade levels are emphasizing what standards, and they did the same thing with ELA, and then they provided there's a lesson plan where teachers can check off what pieces of the Common Core are they paying attention to in their implementation of their plan so that they can kind of get used to thinking about it. When I came back, I'm like, this will be implemented maybe in September next year when we start, really having had a year to chew on what we're doing and moving forward from there. And one thing that Jill Stein, who's a presenter, definitely said is that this is a 10-year process, and that was like awesome to hear. Of course, today we also got a thing that says we're starting DDI in another couple of weeks, and I'm like, oh my God, please let us just data-driven instruction and workshops on that, and the push is just like, and we just need some time to just, we just gotta get in what we've got in, and then data could wait till actually September, in my opinion, but that's who am I?
They don't ask.
No, they don't. No, they don't. But that's all I have. So I'll go get Amy and see if we can do the work.
Can I take this gap to show out my plug for Challenge Day? In February 12th and 13th, the school is going to be offering Challenge Day. It's a program from the outside comes in. It's 100 students at a time. We're looking at doing 8th and 9th graders on one day, and then 10th and 11th on the next. We need 25 adults to also participate. It's a program where you're supposed to, through self-expression, bring the youth and the community together. So I'm hoping for some Board of Education members for those days, quite possibly.
And what do the adults do exactly?
Well, you will be sequestered for 6.5 hours in the gymnasium with these 100 students. You will only be allowed out if you need to go to the restroom. We'll be eating lunch together, spending every minute together.
What's the objective?
Just again, encourage diversity, self-expression, be yourself, care and connect with other people. They call their movement "Be the Change." What exact?
It's develop positive community.
Right. I don't
They have
know
rules
this
for
book.
us.
Right. Bring your instruments. No, I think that's kind of like a team building on a huge scale. I honestly don't know exactly what they're going to do. Our role is, prepare our arena for them to come in, but I don't know specifically the activities that they're going
So
to
the
use.
activities that you're participating with.
Right.
Yes,
When,
and they break you up into students and adults, so many adult students. We don't sing Kumbaya or any of that.
I'm not so sure about that.
But, yeah, sorry. But other districts who have had it have absolutely loved it. And have felt that it's really brought together the staff, the students, and the community.
So are you looking for 20 people on the 12th and then another 20 on the 13th?
You need, right.
So you need 40 really?
You don't have to participate both days, right?
Right,
You
you
can
would,
do one or the
right,
other.
if you could consider coming in either on the 12th or the 13th, and I roughly right now I'm guessing somewhere between 8 and 2:30,
Thanks for that.
I want to say Tuesday, Wednesday.
Of
Tuesday, Wednesday of February?
February.
Tuesday, Wednesday, yeah.
12th and 13th or 12th?
Yes.
12th
Yes.
or 13th? What grade?
Well, it's both, the program comes in 2 separate days, Randy, but it's targeting like 8th and 9th graders one day and 10th and 11th.
Oh, okay.
So you use for both days?
No, well, I would like, it would be great if I could get, some of you one day, some of you the next.
But it will be different groups of kids, it's not.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
there's
Different
nothing-
groups of kids and different groups of
No
adults.
carryover
Okay.
from one day to the next.
And this is going to involve not just the students and obviously you as adults, but we're going to reach out to the community, get as many people within the building, not just, teaching staff, but custodial, cafeteria, secretarial, all, as many people as we can.
So if you're interested, just email Amy, and she'll sign you up.
I'm sure you're interested,
Yeah.
so I'm looking forward to hearing
Okay,
from all
very
of you.
Lindsay and Tony Strong, come on now.
I would have, yeah, I would
January.
say, yeah, probably mid-January would be wonderful, early January would be fantastic.
You can email them information.
Yeah.
I will. We have an online, a conference call next Tuesday, so I'll have more information after that.
We don't have to do like cartwheels or handstands or anything.
Some songs.
Okay.
They're gonna be disappointed
What
if
they
they
are, they might not do that. Okay, Amy, I guess it's your turn, not your.
First of all, who's on the
select
line?
board.
we want.
Chris, Chris thought we should have a little TV in here, so we can watch the ball game
Oh,
while
very
we're
nice,
board
yeah.
meeting.
We want an overtime.
Varsity start?
Oh, yes.
Just start now. Probably a couple more minutes before that.
Move it along.
So, in brief, we're coming up on holiday time, so there is, on this Thursday, the midday play, and then the evening version of the Christmas play, which is a reindeer, a work about reindeer this year. The kids have been practicing, I hear them every day down in the, auditorium, is, pretty darn good, I have to say.
Thursday night?
6:45.
Well, there's a show Thursday,
Yeah, what time is it again?
you have to have tickets to go.
Yeah, there were some advanced things sent out.
I'm sure they were.
So that we don't have the debacle that we had 2 years ago.
Yes.
Is it too late to get the advance tickets?
No, I don't think so.
Well, we'll check his for when we get home.
Santa will be singing soon, and things of that nature. In January begins like the B month. The Parent Teacher Association would like to have a second grade spelling bee. So we're making arrangements for that now. The geography bee takes place in January as well. And if I can make it happen, there will be a math sprint bee for 4th and 5th graders. So it's a rapid calculation bee. So we might as well just jump on the full bee wagon. The only other thing I wanted to show you, this is one of 3 marvelous new courses of study for kindergartners as created by New York State. This will go into effect in fall next year. It's got 11 domains. These are created through New York State by a vendor, and while they are optional, they build on content area in science and social studies, so to now have our kindergarten through 2nd graders doing this work, and learning academic behaviors and skills, would likely not put them in a very good spot. 2 of our kindergarten teachers have already piloted 1 module. They're extremely scripted, but not for long for our smart folks. I did tell them today, I'm trying not to use the age, I did tell them today that this was created, this is by a place called Core Knowledge, and I won't show you too much. This is the nursery rhyme and fable section. This was created originally for New York City schools where there were uncertified, unqualified candidates teaching children. So you actually go through and it tells you exactly what to say. So our kindergarten teachers thought that was a little bit of a bummer, but after the first one, they realized that they're professionals that can do it. It's got beautiful graphic information that comes with it. It spans the 5 senses, the farm, plants, colonial times. It's pretty academic. It teaches kids to paraphrase, to use words like characteristics, things like that at young grades. So this is the work that people are going to take on shortly. They're going to at least run through 1 unit this year.
Did you find out what you're inviting?
If you can do that, carry the capacity.
Totally not a setup. And I just kind of wanted to let you know that it's a massive undertaking for kindergarten, actually pre-K through 2. Pre-K is getting on board. And it also, this is just for 30 minutes of read aloud instruction every day. It's just Put it in.
Play by play, exactly, you know, everything scripted, everything.
Yeah, yep, Randy, you could go in and teach it.
Let's do it.
It does actually offer opportunities, and I kind of think this is nice, for music and for art to really support and have us have a pretty unified vision of elementary, very elementary, kindergarten, pre-K through to instruction, so that for kids, they'll be singing, they'll be creating, and it will all kind of come together. The other end of this is 30 minutes of instruction daily. And then at the tail end, if you kind of recall yourselves or recall your children having centers, they're usually science and social study based, and they're extensions of this. That's why there's plants, colonial times, the human body, things like that. So I just wanted to share a little bit of that. We really do have to ship this out and have somebody else reproduce it though. Because I did this today.
Is this a lot different than what our teachers are teaching our kindergartners today?
Yes and no. What it's meant for, most everyone does like a plant seed unit. What this helps with is that you do a very specific part of that seed unit in kindergarten, and then you don't go back and do it all over again, and you embed pretty complex information in there for kids. So they're not just receiving, and doing the plant thing. It's highly academic. So, and super duper structured. And so while you'll see they spiral back to certain themes each year for 3 years, they're not doing the same thing every year. We always laugh about the,
It's not redundant.
yeah, they're not gonna do the same monarch, butterfly hatching, chrysalis thing year after year. And that's sometimes what happens because, let's face it, you close your door, you operate in your room, you have plenty to do in there, but we have all, historically as teachers, to a certain degree, been guilty of operating in silos. And then I think what's helpful about this is it pulls you out and says, as I said to teachers earlier, you're always forced to look ahead and look back. You're looking ahead at what the work you're doing here, where that's going to play out the year after, but you also have a curiosity to look back and have an understanding of what kids already know coming in. So it's not just endless review about the monarch butterfly cycle. If I look back right now and it's just no offense to anybody, but if I look back in that big box of stuff you keep your kids because you don't know what else to do with it, I bet you there are about 8 seedling flip books and about 14 monarch butterfly projects, and they're almost the exact same thing year after year, and it has not become any more complex. So this forces that a little bit. I don't think it's that teachers didn't want to make things complex. It's just they didn't necessarily know what students had learned before, or had an expectation of what they were going to have to be equipped to be able to do the year after. So it's really, I think it's a good opportunity. The folks who have done it, they said they liked it a lot, but more important, they said the children loved it. Absolutely loved it. And that's great because you've really satisfied the 2 major components of teaching and learning.
Well, the curriculum too really got away from fairy tales and nursery rhymes, which is obviously what we all learned growing up and taught you the rhyming, the phonetics, and now it's right back into it again.
Yeah.
So I think that will be a real distinct advantage to having that.
So as I understand it right, that it's like every year is a little bit different. It goes in a 3-year cycle, so they're not, every class is being taught the same thing.
Right. So like in year 1, you'll start with nursery rhymes and fables in kindergarten, but it'll be called fairy tales in grade 1. The level of text complexity will have gotten higher, the questions will have gotten higher. And in year 3, it will have changed itself into fairy tales and tall tales. It really just reeks of the education I had when I was younger, which is, I think, fantastic. But other places, it starts with kings and queens, that's its base. But then it moves to world civilizations in grade 1. And then it moves to ancient Greek civilizations and Greek myths. And we saw that test item sample, remember the one that was for 6th grade and it was all Greek mythology. So now we've got students in grade 2 who are at least familiar with it. They're not getting to 6th grade and the teachers in class.
So the whole binder that you have right there is for pre-K through 2.
It's technically for K through 2, but pre-K has lots that they can.
And so is there a similar program for 3 through?
3 through 5 has what they call modules. They're a little bit more optional, but they still springboard off of these. So we have the 3 through 5 teachers trying to reconcile. Those are massive units, and they're really specific the way they want you to teach. But we've taken on a new reading instructional model, so we just have to have the two work together well, and they can. And our reading coach through OCs is right on top of that very particularly, and that has made our teachers a little happier. But that's a big shift too. Yep, so so by the time a student hits 6th grade, they should have this really, I hate this word, rich, deep knowledge of a lot of like basic
Fairy
factual
tales.
information.
So, but this is gonna take
Deep knowledge
away
fairy
that whole thing of different teachers teaching different things and some kids the next grade not having what they need, just.
Not only that, but district by district, it gets really a little bit. And just as like a little aside, the people who created this and went out and got proposals to have all this done, most of the people at State Ed who are running this show, they all came from charter schools. Charter schools have calendars, they have scripts, they tell you what to do. Now, I'm not saying charter schools have been overly successful, because the research hasn't come in to show anything, but that's the mindset, and it's not a bad mindset when you see, you start to see gaps and you don't even know how to start filling them in for kids. At least here you can say, well, what is missing here that we might be able to fill in the gap on that? Maybe isn't even a skill. It might just be content that the student doesn't know anything about. But yeah, so teacher to teacher, you have a reasonable sense that throughout the year, that is what we taught. I wouldn't want to go as far as to say, here's a pacing calendar, here's exactly what you teach it, because that's just downright insulting, and it just sucks the joy out of teaching. You know exactly what to teach you when. But if over the course of a year you get in the scope of what you need, that's pretty ideal.
And what did you say the time you would expect to spend on this individual
30
program?
minutes daily.
In a day? 30 minutes? That's a lot of paper for 30 minutes a day.
And this is one rolling through. I was going to bring it in for a dramatic effect, but I was afraid I'm going to trip the door. So, wow. So that's, some of the news we got on the
Tom, you had asked a couple of questions just to get those answers. I guess your first one, why did we delay? Neighboring districts did delay. Obviously, one of the things at 4 a.m. this morning, when the phone call started with Blaine Sykes, we always determine what our district is going to do, what temperatures are here. At that point, it was between 35 and 40 degrees. I thought there was no reason to delay. Frank then did travel in, and when he got into the district at 5:20, again, we were already above 40 degrees, so there was no reason or need to feel to delay. You had mentioned that districts that we transport to closed. We don't transport to Governor, we do transport into Fowler. But if you notice around us, Herman, DeKalb, Harrisville, and Clifton Final did not delay either. It's determined each, excuse me? Clifton, Fine, Harrisville, Herman, DeKalb. Can't get it for an hour. But, we don't base our decisions what other districts do. We base on when Frank, John, and I, and Dwayne Sykes talk. And usually Dwayne is the only department person that speaks to us. The other areas, towns, do not have their highway person call me or Frank. So it's truly exciting each day that there's a possible storm. But just to show you the irony of it, Rushton, Moira, and St. Regis Falls had the same superintendent, same transportation person. One of their schools delayed 2 hours today, the other one didn't. So it really just is where you are, what your temperatures are, what happens that morning.
I know like down on the creek, they were a lot colder than up here. We were warmer than you were in Russell.
Yeah, I do like when front coming north, and you have a cable facing your pier pond, or is that, how much, if that is bad as the whole district, do they?
It
because
just,
of that,
it
or
depends. I
depends?
mean, we wouldn't just say this part of the district's
Right.
like, obviously it's all or none. But what we try to do is talk to Dwayne, talk to John, who's down in the center, like as he comes through. And basically the four of us decide, usually we try to do it by 5:30. But the phone calls did start at 4 a.m. this morning.
How come we don't communicate with Russell, town highway superintendent, like we do with superintendents?
Only because they don't choose to be part of it. We've invited them. And
They
that's
got
one of the
taken
white
off.
guys. And that kind of stuff, I'd say a couple years ago, but when I came on, I kind of re-invited him back into the loop.
It was really weird this morning. When I left my house to go to work at 6:30, it was 40 degrees out. By the time I got on the backside of Trail Lake, it was 30 degrees and complete ice.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Herman didn't close because their school buses were going about 5 miles an hour.
Yeah,
So
so
it
yeah.
was weird this morning.
Right, oh yeah, it was. But we don't base it necessarily always on what other school districts do. We try to talk to who we can up here and, go from there. But it doesn't go not noticed. I mean, the phone calls start early and it's never an easy decision because whatever one you make, you're usually wrong.
I was gonna say,
Nobody's ever happy with
if you had closed, there would have been people saying, why didn't you close? It was unnecessary.
I was
And
just
it
over
is
best practice.
a struggle.
But
when
we
you
haven't always
close.
followed governor either. Bill did. Bill and
Yeah.
Chris always made their decision. I never made my decision with Chris. Because we had another whole end of our district. And I'm not from governor, Bill was. So, I mean, it's just kind of, determined by that. But it's a tough decision each time you make it. But I did want to point that out that.
Was there an issue today or just curious?
Just wondering.
He had called and asked, so I just was trying to address it, what we did. The second question you had asked, did we send a bus out of district to do the cross members installed? And yes, we did. It's the fourth one we sent in less than 2 years. And there's a couple of reasons. If we would pull our mechanic to work on that, it takes about 20 hours, so nothing else would get done. We felt in the last couple of years, it's in the best interest to send them out. And also, they have to be done by a certified welder. We don't have a certified welder on staff.
Okay, I was just wondering if they had got prices like on Stadium and down Route 11. They're a lot closer. And I know I talked to Route 11 and Canton's bus, they had 106 hours per second. Depends on how many cross members they have to change. And you're right, that's what they told me, that they have to be certified welder.
Correct.
Because back when I was doing it, we didn't have to have certified
Right,
welder.
correct. But I think that the only reason the issue came up this time because the driver was very annoyed that he couldn't drive his bus because it was still down,
Oh.
ready to be fixed. But it is the fourth one in less than 2 years that we have sent out. It is normal practice, and I know that Frank does call around, but it's also one of these things, sometimes you get very happy with the service you get, and the people that you get it, and they get you in quicker and return them faster.
We can crack or?
The salt content of the roads just goes up and up and up every year.
So does Frank or anybody else at the school bus garage do any welding at all?
They do minor welding. We have the whole setup there and everything, but not, this has to be certified.
So would it be cost effective if maybe we certified one of our employees become a certified welder, just to save some money from doing what we do?
That I'll have to check. I'm not sure what that would involve or who it would involve. The whole thing is if we had Todd do that, for example, as our mechanic, he would have, 20 hours, he wouldn't have done anything else. So there's other things that are going on. And I think it wasn't there like an assistant mechanic or a second person that did help up in the garage 7 years ago?
No, it was mechanic, and then when Jim and I were here, he would come right out and help me. So it was, that's the way we worked it.
And Frank does do that on, minor things. But I can check on that, Chris. It's never come up before, so just Tom had brought that question up.
My son spent 3 days certifying, certified welder. It takes 3 days to take the test, so.
But he also, did he obviously have training in that, in addition?
In the 3 days, it takes 3
So
days
just-
to actually
okay.
do the test. They're in 3 days. You have to do it every year to get the certified ones.
Oh, really? Right, as Kate just brought up, and that's true, in one day you wouldn't be working on anything else then. But again, I'll check into it to see what it would be feasible.
Just a question, find out what,
We're on second day.
That's what we're hoping. We want our second day. I did talk to Clifton Fine today just for a little bit. They're pretty much where they're trying to decide a building renovation project too. And it's my understanding there are some people opposed to doing anything to their bus garage. If they don't do a building renovation in the garage, they can't continue to run a garage. It's kind of the impression the superintendent gave me. So we might be having further talks with them, depending on what they decided in their board meeting this evening. So,
They just got done with renovation, didn't
they did,
not that bus garage.
not with the bus garage, they haven't done it. I mean, truly, the ceiling is falling down, from what I understand, in the bus garage currently.
Well, it's
What's
very
that?
nice.
It is.
So what would they do? Abandon their bus garage and park their buses outside and just bring their buses here to work on?
Well, what we just started a very preliminary conversation today about joining forces and sharing services. So she was going to introduce that as a possibility to her board. And there was another discussion with a third district about the possibility of having a shared service transportation supervisor. So,
That might make it even more worthwhile to have a certified loader.
well, of course, then you could, and if we had a second day, that would make even more sense. But, all these things are preliminary, and we'll, once the budgets start again, see where we stand with it.
But if you recall, Clifton Fine is using our garage for all their student inspections now. So if you start doing that permanently with more than one district, your second, that bay will be tied up all the time, only a second bay is in your home's choice.
Maybe we should have two days.
Maybe at least one, if you're gonna consider those things.
There's enough room to put another lift right underneath the one, either side of the existing. But
Well, the other thing is we need to check on, obviously, what are we going to give a need? Because that was one of the things too. If we're not getting aid, we're not putting in second bed either. But, and at this point, we're not currently charging Clifton Fine to use our bay. But, and that's one of the things I said, long term, if they're looking at engaging in more with us, there's going to be a cost. So,
just one other question, do they wash underneath the bottom of the buses when he does his monthly inspection, just to get the salt from those cross members in the frame?
it is my understanding that yes, Todd does. There's an argument with the driver saying he doesn't. So,
I know it'll save a lot. You get that sand and salt, especially on Edwards End, the worst end.
right. Right. And again, Kate just brought up, that's why we are getting more of the undercoating on the new buses than we did previously have also. But we still do need to clean up, bottom line, it helps. We also want our own cars, not bad for that.
I don't know if you've ever been up there, so but you have Sandville, I got bumps all. It is bad.
It is. Okay, that's all I have on my.
I neglected to ask at the beginning if anybody had any board member issues, and I know you have questions. Are there any other ones? Can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss pending or current litigation, collective negotiations, appointment or employment of a particular person, and the regents thing that Michelle mentioned?